Hello everyone, how's it going? So in this video, we're going to talk about MMTLP. What happened, what we think happened, what's the latest information, and what you can do next. And if you're interested, what kind of lessons we can pull out from it. So MMTLP is this spin-off from MMAT that's supposed to be merging with another company, and a lot of people were hyped up because they have like a huge short position that comes with it, and people were expecting to squeeze out the short sellers and then sell immediately afterwards. I think that's the plan of most, because it was kind of convoluted on how things are going to go down. Of course, at some point we were like, and myself included, I was like, you know what? There's no way that this stock is going to like not cover most of these losses and send the not the losses, but like the shorts, and then send the stock price up into the like cloud 9. Now, something happened when during the last few days, and initially Finra changed the wording of like their conclusion about MMTLP, and then they've halted the trading and they have removed MMTLP from the market. And this has spooked a lot of people, and I was also surprised by how things went on. Now, what happened is Finra said, you know what, we warned you guys, when we changed the wording, you're supposed to understand that this means that by December 8th, if you haven't sold MMTLP, you cannot sell it anymore. Well, I don't remember reading those very words from any of their notices. I remember that by December 8th, you're no longer able to exchange or to expect like the new shares to be distributed in your portfolio. Now, I don't think that it really mattered. At some point, Finra decided to just stop the trading, and in the meantime, probably give some leeway to the short sellers, because they haven't said that the shorts don't have to cover. They were saying we're freezing everything for the time being. And right now, no one truly knows what's going to happen to the shorts. Do they have to cover at all? Will they ever cover? Do they have to pay financial fees in the meantime? Because right now, things seem very, one-sided in favor of the short sellers and the institutions and the hedge funds. This might make sense, though, because, just as a sideway, that Finra is not the same as SEC, right? It's not like a fully public regulator. It's more like a mall cop instead of a cop. It's like, basically, the ones employing it, the ones funding it, are the ones from the industry. In other words, bank market makers, short sellers, institutions, and yeah, a little bit of us, because brokers, they have, retail traders who are their clients as well. So with all these in play, my feeling is we're clearly been manipulated by Finra. This is far from normal. Now, I'm sure that by the time you see this video, that this is everyone's opinion. This is not something new. But I would say that as long as people keep shouting towards Finra, like, this is what we're doing, right? Every single time that they post something on the social media, if you look at the comments, they're all about MMTLP. So this is why I think that eventually it's going to have its effect. They're going to have to address this issue. Otherwise, there could be like widespread loss of trust in the market, and this, to some extent, can kickstart the real recession that has been looming around for a few years now, right? Things can sometimes begin with very tiny little things. Like for example, how in 2021 the momentum of the bulls has been like stopped at one point? I think that it really began with CCIV losing its steam and crashing from like 50 something dollars down to 18, I remember. And this is the kind of stuff that can really break the momentum, or to put even less doubt in people's mind that, oh, we're not in like an interregnum here. We're not still deciding on what to do next. We're probably gonna be done with this kind of change. In other words, some kind of big hammer is gonna smash on our portfolio, and this is why we're gonna get out in time. Okay, so I think that what happened with MMTLP is significant, but not all is lost, because the latest information suggests that MMTLP, like those who were holding MMTLP on December the 8th, they're going to get a stock that they can trade via like private placement. Now, private placement, in my books, what it means is that, you know, it's more peer-to-peer. I pass you a hot potato, you pass to the others hot potato. It's very much like, I don't know if you've played games like this, but in some MMORPGs, they don't have like trading halls. So what you do is that you're gonna spam like in the big court or whatever, and hope for people to come to you instead of another one. So by doing so, obviously the costs are going to be very, they're going to vary a lot from one person to the other, from one placement to the other, from one middleman to another. It kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever read like history books with like Soviet era history books, or towards the very end. You know, they were like back in the 90s, they were selling something called vouchers. They're essentially shares of state-owned assets, and you can sell like pieces of them in private placement, and then afterwards they can be sold like on public exchanges. But for some time, you can sell them like in the train station and the metro, you know, in the coffee shop, so on and so forth. There were people with like a big cardboard on them saying, I'm selling my vouchers, you know, for this or that amount of money. It was all quite, you know, exotic and fun, but the principle remains the same here. So MMTLP is probably no more. I highly doubt that they're gonna like resume the trading for this stock, but once you receive like the other one for a number of value that the other side is going to give you, try to contact your broker to see what would be the way in order to trade around this new shares. Apparently, they're not going to be listed on any exchange, so this would mean that the liquidity can be an issue. What you can potentially do is to ask your broker, do they host like, you know, public placement or private placement kind of service, and you go from there. Or you can see online like who would be trading their new shares for how much, and then maybe you can play around the fact that one doesn't know what's the other's price is, so you can maybe try to make like a few quick bucks in doing so as well. Of course, there are also people who trust like the long-term future of that project itself. Never say never, but like definitely be careful with hoping that a project with a reserve of fossil energy can really just simply take off like this. You know, the fact that the war might be ending, the fact that people might go into a recession is not going to have a significant impact on the oil price. You know, it's these things that we would have to think about. And of course, let's also take a moment and address, you know, what can we learn from all this? What can we learn is that we really have to nuance a bit our expectation regarding short squeezes. If short squeeze, they work at all. They have worked on a few occasions. They have worked for good on a few occasions. They have worked temporarily for another few. But for many of them, people come in expecting like the big moonshot. But this might not happen, okay? And it might not happen for several reasons. In my books, it tends to not happen because you're playing against some of the people who hold a lot of sways in that industry. It's kind of sad to put it like this, but I think that ultimately it is a little bit like this, okay? There's a reason why the triple 90 rule applies. 90% of retail loses 90% of their capital within 90 days. Is because they know that we're going to try to hop in and YOLO away the capital, but they don't. My recommendation for exposure has been around 1%. I seriously wonder who would go with only 1%. It's possible that you have gone for like 50% or 60% of your portfolio, no matter how big or small it might be, okay? Because I don't really worry about people putting their chips only when they can afford to lose this amount of chips. Like very few people in the retail side actually do this. I personally know none. I try to do this with my own investment, and frankly, it kind of feels weird. It kind of feels weird to put in like, you know, 0.01% of your portfolio in a stock when you see that everyone else is saying that all the stars are aligned, and you can just YOLO in, you can all in, and make a big payday, and then you don't have to work for the rest of your life. This is the kind of stuff that we currently hear on a constant basis, and I have to say I am also not immune to that kind of thing, okay? The only thing is that maybe on a personal level, I've always felt, and this is only a hunch, I didn't have any proof back then, but I had a hunch that statistically, even if it's more likely than not that we're going to have a squeeze, because how can there not be, okay? It's better if, how can I put it? Like, it's better if I still warn people against the fact that regardless of how many stars are aligned, and that the ocean just opened itself, okay? Despite of any of these, we might still have some bad surprises. This might be just my personality. It might also be because back then all my money has been put into another investment. So like this is really why I was able to dodge the bullet. It's not really because I saw things coming necessarily. Because if judged that way, I would see things coming every single time that there is something good that shows up. Like, imagine if I have a stock that has risen by 300%. Well, unless they've lived in this town for a very long time, or in this country for a very long time, like maybe that this is the kind of stuff that I want to have some doubts on, right? So it's mostly that kind of stuff. Now, looking forward, whenever we look at the short squeeze potentials, we have to check why is there a short squeeze to begin with. Like, for example, is there a big short squeeze because people are just shorting the stock and there's no reason to it? There's nothing that's going to happen to the company. That's number one. Number two, is there a merger coming up? Mergers are far more problematic because MMTLP is not the first one that I've heard that this kind of stuff happened. Of course, this time it happened with Finra. The last time is because the short sellers have worked with the management of that company. And this has resulted in all the long shareholders losing a substantial amount of their investments. So looking forward, it's very important to always control how much you're buying into a position. Never assume the thing's going to turn up the way they are advertised to turn up. And try to be more like skeptical about things. If something looks too good to be true, that there's no other way that they're gonna come at the end of a procedure. Like for example, if you think that there's no other way that the short sellers cannot redeem their shares, well, think again. They can simply just remove the shares by somehow convincing Finra to do this. So this is why, like maybe in the future, it's very important to be skeptical of when something is too good to be true. I will try to warn people more often about this kind of thing. I remember I have warned about people at least once, I would say, that I'm worried that something is going to happen. So like maybe in the future, we should pay more attention to this kind of feeling when something is indeed too good to be true, and that the probability of one single outcome is very high. It's like virtually impossible to not be that. This is the kind of time that this is the kind of moment that we really have to question ourselves.